Good evening, everybody. It's 7:30, so I'll make a start. So welcome to this meeting of the Licensing and Appeals Committee. For the benefit of those watching on our YouTube channel, members of the committee are present in the chamber and these members will be voting on the proposals this evening. Other members of the council who are also present in the chamber or participating on Teams can take part in any discussions and ask questions and not vote. Your attention is drawn to agenda item 1, which sets out the guidance on how meetings are conducted. Before we start with the formal business, we'll confirm attendance of voting members by doing a roll call, please.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Present.
Councillor Williams.
Present.
Councillor Banks.
Present.
Councillor Coffin.
Present.
Councillor Cope.
Present.
Councillor Kers.
Present.
Councillor King.
Present.
Councillor Mallard. Councillor Oliver. Councillor Roud. Apologies been received from Councillor Taylor, who is participating online. Councillor Thornywell. Councillor Tunstall.
Present.
Great, thank you very much. Any more from the floor? No. Can we just do introductions from the officers, please?
Chair, it's Anthony Garnett, Head of Service for Licensing, Customer Service and Community Safety.
Victoria Freeman, Democratic Services Officer.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, item 3. So the meeting will operate under the ground rules set out on pages 5 to 7 of the agenda pack. And any members have any declarations of interest? No? Good. Okay, so we've got some minutes to agree. So if you can confirm as a correct record the minutes of the meeting, the Licensing and Appeals Committee held on the 25th of September. Can we agree those? Happy with that? That meeting ended at 7:55. 25 minutes to go. And we have minutes of the panel to receive minutes of 2 meetings of the Licensing and Appeals Committee, sitting as a panel held on 25th October, which I've already signed. So just noting. So moving on to agenda item 6, which is a review of the licensing fees and charges for 2025 to 2026. And Anthony, if you can introduce that, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, on page 17, this is the annual review of the licensing fees and charges for 2025-26. As I usually do at this meeting, I'll go through the background of the fees in summary, and then with your permission, Chair, if we work our way through Annex 1 section by section. So the responsibility for setting the fees here at Tunbridge and Malling is with you as the Licensing and Appeals Committee, and the report that gives details of the proposed fees before you tonight. The fees that we're going to talk about are in 3 types. There's type 1, which is fees that are set by statute, for which the council has no power to amend. And the example of those is the Licensing Act fees and lotteries. Type 2 is where a maximum cap is set by statute that permits councils to set a reasonable fee to recover its cost up to that cap. Before my time, and we're looking at 12 years ago plus, this council decided to adopt the maximum fees for every line under the Gambling Act 2005, and therefore, Chair, there is no movement in that set of fees for tonight. And the final type is type 3, which is the relevant statute permits councils to set their own fees that will enable it to recover its reasonable cost. And the majority of the fees we are looking at tonight are in that section, and the examples of that are taxi and private hire and scrap metal. As I do this time of year, on number 0.5, I put a summary of the number of licenses that are in place, and I'll just comment on 1 or 2. The Hackney carriage vehicles from our benchmark of 182 before COVID, 179, 182, is up to 172. So we're creeping up on the number of Hackneys that we have. Likewise, the Hackney driver's badges you'll see going down, but a lot of drivers have now moved to the dual driving badge, which means they can drive a Hackney or a private hire, and that number is at 219. And the private hire vehicles is currently at 380, and before COVID, we were at 477. So we have a slightly smaller fleet on the private hire vehicles. That's reflected in the total number of taxi licenses, currently at 1,181, which is slightly lower on taxis than it has been. Number of drivers is at 629, which is the highest it's been since December 2019. In 2019, we were at 73. Premises licenses is 375. We're fairly stable on that number. And the personal licenses literally goes up every year. Just for members refreshing their information on personal licenses, you have to live in the borough to get your first license, but we are now servicing 1,818 licenses all over this country and many other countries where people move on. So that's just a fault of the Act. It is what we have. There is a table on 5.3, which I normally show, just gives the category and the numbers of premises in that category. So pubs are at 73, and there are breweries. I suppose the only observation there is that internet continues to grow. We have 13 businesses that purely deal online, and we have a healthy number of convenience stores stroke supermarkets. The table at 5.4 just puts into context the number of premises licenses and club licenses that we have compared with the other local authorities in Kent. And the taxi number tracking there is in Annex 3, and I've covered the numbers already, just the you can see the variation, the numbers of taxis which we track each month, and there's just a selection there to give an idea of the long-term trend. Finally, on the introduction, I've put the annual fee table there, just to give members an idea of the revenue that comes in. And just to remind you that an annual fee is due on the anniversary of the grant of the license, and these fees have not gone up since 2005 because it's government set. So we have, for us, a large chunk of the income comes in that way. The only observation I'd make in regard to taxi and setting the fees, the reason that I have always gone to the November meeting, and in fact most of the council fees are now set this time of year, is that I have to, by law, advertise the taxi fees in the press and on public notice. And if there is an objection, Chair, you will hear that objection at the March meeting in 2025. I cannot charge any fees in respect of enforcement on the licenses as far as the drivers is concerned. So what I would like to do with your permission, Chair, is to move to Annex 3. I can put it up on the screen, but is everyone happy with the information they have in front of them? If you need it on the screen, let me know and I will put it up. Chair, with your permission, if I deal with the driver licenses first. The driver licenses are on page 1 and part of page 2. The only observations I'd like members to be aware of is that the DBS, which is the certificate that gives details of an applicant's criminal history, has gone up from 38 to 49.50. That's not something we set, but it's quite a hike from the DBS authority for drivers to absorb, and that happened and is happening at the moment. So on Hackney carriages, we propose to move up on the driver's licenses from 243, which we currently approved last year, to 250. Private hire, exactly the same, 50. Dual, 280 from 272. And the renewals for both the Hackney carriage and the private hire are the same. For reference, where the information can be documented in parity, you'll see Sevenoaks, Maidstone and Tunbridge Wells. And Tunbridge Wells don't have any Hackney or private hire. They only have dual licenses at Tunbridge Wells. Chairman, if I pause at that moment, just if we can deal with that first.
I am just wondering because obviously I'm not the most popular person with taxi drivers, but one of the things they have raised is that they think that we are giving out too many licenses. Is there a point where we would cap how many we would do, or is that purely down to if they agree to having the unmet needs survey? Thank you.
Chair, it's down to representation from the drivers. This committee has heard 2 applications on my watch where they get a number of petitions together. They do a petition and get a number of drivers to write in. Once we have a demand survey in place, unmet demand survey, it has to be revisited again 3 years later. So once the unmet demand survey is commissioned, they may say, right, we believe that there is a demand for 75 taxis or 100 taxis. The way that we get down to that number is that we just don't issue any more badges until we're down to that number. There is a fee for the unmet demand survey. It's £12,000 to £15,000. Last time we looked at the figures, and that has to be, and you'll see when Maidstone, they charge £26 for every driver towards the fee plus the vehicles. So the summary answer is it has to be a driver's request to put that in place. Then we will carry out a vote of all the drivers. I will put it before you, and it is your decision whether we go ahead with an unmet demand survey. I will look it up for you while we're talking, Chair.
No, thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Based on what Anthony just said, I'm fine now. Thank you.
Okay, do you want to carry on with the next one? Yes, let's do that then. So there is a recommendation on 3.1, but what we're going to do is do them in these blocks here. So can we agree this first block with members? Agreed. Okay, carry on, Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm now going to move on to vehicles. And just for members' information, we do not have, as we've just discussed, a limit, whereas Maidstone do, and I stand corrected, but I believe this is 47 and Tunbridge Wells is 105. So our Hackney carriage fees, there is a charge for a new and there is a charge for a renewal. So for a new, that's when we provide them with the side signs as they are at the moment. We know we have got some new side signs coming on and fare charts and other bits and pieces. So the percentage increase is fairly consistent through the report. We're moving from 294 proposing to 303, and private hire new 284 to 293, and the renewals are both Hackney and private hire are coming in at 281. So the slightly higher prices for new because we provide them with a different kit. And the other areas of that, we have a plate exempt fee. So that's for private hires who do purely executive work, most of the government contracts. That's proposed just to go up from 48 to 49. And Chair, that's the vehicle fees proposed.
Any questions on that block or vehicle license 1 year? No, in which case, can we agree that block? Thank you. And carry on, Anthony.
Thank you. Operator licenses. So the way we deal with operator licenses here is that we do it per vehicle. So we're proposing to move that up from 92 to 95. And then if a operator brings another vehicle onto their operator license in the first year, it will be the same price. But it is proportionate. If they're bringing a new vehicle in for the second year, then they've only got 4 years, like 3 years and 2 years, etc. So that's why the sliding scale's there. And I put for reference the licensing partnership prices where they've got a figure for purely 5 years, 3 years and 1 year. Again, I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Any questions for the officer on operator license block? No. Okay, agree that block, please. Agreed. Okay, carry on.
Thank you. Insurance plates. We have quite a few of these. There are insurance companies that provide plates when a vehicle is off the road damaged. Hackney, we intend to move from 68 to 70. And for each additional month, 47 to 48. And private hire for the first month, 59 to 61, and then 47 to 48.
Any questions for the officer on insurance plates? No, agree with the recommendation? Okay, and moving on to additional costs.
Additional costs, this is purely simply driver's badge with plastic lanyards. Just the token increase there, 15 to 15.50. Driver's badge with admin fee only, no holder, that's 14 to 14.50. And the plastic holder for the driver's badge, simply 120 to 150. And I'll just capsulate the next ones here. Duplicate paper license is not something we charge for here. We charge it within the replacement on admin fees that we'll see later on. We charge a much higher price. And we have, perhaps we can just cover the knowledge test as well. The knowledge test, we're moving up from £60 to 65. The knowledge test has stayed stable for the last 3 or 4 years. And we are more expensive than Sevenoaks, Maidstone and Tunbridge Wells. But such is the demand, we've had to put new knowledge tests on this last year. And we've had something like £8,000 in revenue. So because we want to try and reflect the admin time in sorting out these knowledge tests and holding them, we are proposing those increases, Chair. So if we could take the additional costs and knowledge.
Okay, knowledge tests and additional cost blocks. Then any questions? Go ahead, please.
Sorry, I may have misunderstood. Can I just confirm we don't make any profit on these? It's simply the rise will cover the costs.
Correct.
Thank you. That's fine.
Yes, that is the case.
So can we agree those 2 blocks, please? Good.
Chair, it's the current fees and charges for admin. The admin tends to fall into different classes depending on what needs to be done and the officer time costs involved. So we are tending to move those up from 46 to 47, 23 to 24, 13 to 14, and copy of existing paper license from 13 to 13.50.
Any questions? Agree there, block. Great.
If scrap metal, Chair, again, we are proposing in the fee to go from 347 to 357 for mobile licenses. The number of mobile licenses has reduced, as with a lot of authorities over the last few years. Site licenses 462 to 478, and the renewal of a site license from 416 to 429. And the second table is just purely the details for Maidstone and Tunbridge Wells. Come on to that.
Any questions for the officer on those 2? Martin, go ahead, please.
Just one of curiosity, why is there a decline in mobile scrap metal dealers? They seem to be around our village all the time.
It's the economics of currently what we're doing, but there is going to be 1 or 2 people that are going out collecting mobile scrap that have not got a license. And there are 2 avenues to approach that. One is we would go out and do an operation with the police or with the Environment Agency, or on the waste services, they feed a lot of information through. If someone they stop has no mobile license, they have to show a mobile license on the windscreen with a photograph. It's something we'd like to do more enforcement on, to be honest.
Go ahead.
Having just learned something there that they are supposed to display the license in the window, maybe we could ask John or someone to put out a bit of a news release so that people are aware that if they're going to have scrap metal collectors in their village, just keep an eye out to see if they're licensed.
Very happy to organise that for you.
Okay, so no more questions for scrap metal, mobile. Read that recommendation. Good. And moving on, we've got a slight change, I think.
Yes, Chair, on page 8 of 14 on my sheet here, scrap metal dealers should read street trading. So on the top chart there. That's on page 32 of your papers. So we have not got any consents at the moment. Just to update members, the licensing officer that took a year to recruit only lasted 2 weeks and 2 days left. And so I have an agency licensing officer in. Apparently they don't like working for me. No, but on a serious point, this guy is very good and he's helping us out at the moment with the premises licenses. And hopefully on our next recruitment campaign, we'll have someone in that can start to tackle trading. So we are just a little struggling at the moment, but that's no excuse. We will look for some resource. So, Chair, we have put those up accordingly, as you'd expect: 420 to 433, 70 to 72, and 20 to 21. And the competitive information there. And if we can, I'll just drop film classification in. We haven't had any films to view here for some time. But we would then charge them £80 an hour purely. Tunbridge Wells have a lot of films to review because of the theatre, but we do not here. But we just want to cover our backs in case we have a formal request.
Any questions? Yes, Martin.
Sorry. Presumably with the street trading consents, if we're not actively doing those at the moment, this could be subject to quite a bit of change, as we're supposed to charge a fee that recovers our costs. I would assume we don't really know what our costs are at this stage because of the officer time not being involved.
Chair, what I will propose to do is when we have the new licensing officer in post and we have done some calculations, we can review that cost at, say, the March or the June, probably the June meeting's more sensible, just to see if that is correct. And there is no reason why members, if they wish to, can review the costs at the June meeting for street trading.
If there are no further questions, can we read those blocks? Good. What's next?
Chair, sex establishments, page 33. We have one in the borough of Vibes at Aylesford, and we're proposing to keep that at 2,000 in light of the Westminster case at the moment. We are waiting for a review on that, but to service the sex establishment, the amount of enforcement visits that you do, she's been trading for years, the license is immaculate, she runs a very high fitted out establishment. Very careful with my words here. So I would struggle to justify if we increase the fees, Chair.
Yes. No further questions. Can we agree there?
Boating licenses. Right, 3 categories: pleasure boats, boatmen and rowboats. And these are very much serviced down at Tunbridge on the river there. And we are proposing an increase of 184 to 190, 36 to 37 and 36 to 37. We did have a period of time last year where they couldn't use the boats because of the river was drained for repairs. So we reflected that with them in their license last year. But those are the proposals. And do you want? Shall I take the next section as well? Yeah, pre-application advice. I have outlined it there. This year we have not been able to do much of that because of resource and just processing the number of licenses with a small team they've got. So I'm proposing those fees as you agreed last year for this year, and taking councillor's point, if we start to get this person aboard quickly, we might be in a position to review those fees. But it's certainly an income line that we have not generated much income this year for.
Any question, members? No. Agree there? And almost there.
Hypnotism licenses, we haven't issued one for 2 or 3 years, remember. But the fee I'm proposing goes from 35 to 36. And then the next block down is in Eleanor's team, that's the food and safety team, who do the acupuncture, cosmetic piercing, additional treatments and additional practitioners on the same premises. And we've adopted the same increase that we've done, and their team leader has agreed to that. So the fees are laid out at 175 to 180, 200 to 206, 55 to 57 and 57 respectively.
Any questions on hypnotism or special treatment? No, agree with that recommendation then? Good.
The next section is the animal welfare licensing, pages 36 and 37. We are proposing increases across the board there, going down. I won't read every single one of them out. The only thing I wanted to draw members' attention to is 2 new categories on the bottom of page 37 is variation. And on this occasion, pre-application advice, because Louise is very qualified and she is spending a lot of time giving advice. And it was her recommendation that we started to charge for it. And I would endorse that, and hopefully the members will agree that. Tunbridge Wells is currently 40. We're proposing 60 purely because of her qualifications and the amount of time that she's used in advising different establishments. So I will finish with zoos at moving up from 745 to 820. And dangerous wild animals, I haven't put an increase on because we are so far ahead of everybody else. But I will take members' direction.
Any questions on animal licensing? Happy to agree those fee increases. Moving on to GAM.
Chair, I've put on page 38 the Gambling Act fees, but since we're at the top of the range of every possible fee that we can charge, we have no room for manoeuvre. That's really for information. And then on pages 39, we just put the model that we use to calculate the fees. We've used these in court, so it's simply we break down the different steps of a fee from validating, processing, and issuing into a cost of by officer time who's involved. We're allowed to charge 1% of potential going to court as well. So that's how we do it. It's something we've been doing for some considerable time. Chair, that really sums up the fees for the decisions you have to make today, but I'm always very happy to answer any questions or take concerns away.
We have to agree. Agree this one? No, we don't. Okay, so any questions on the gambling or anything else whilst you've got opportunity? No. Okay, so the recommendation at 3.1 was there. We've agreed all the fee increases as set down in the papers tonight. So we will move on, if there are no questions, to item 7, urgent items, which there are none. So I'm going to close the meeting at 19:58. Thank you very much for coming.
Good night all.